Good evening. Calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the West Hartford Public Schools regular Board of Education meeting. It is Tuesday, December the 20th, 2022 at 7 o'clock. Let us please begin with the roll call, Charlotte.
Dr. Chang?
Present.
Mr. Goldman?
Here.
Dr. Harris?
Here.
Dr. Kimoff?
Present.
Ms. Nazarella?
Present.
Dr. Steinberg?
Here.
Dr. Thomas-Farquharson?
Here.
Student Representative Megan Murphy?
Excused.
Student Representative Caitlin Striffcave?
Here. Thank you so much. Caitlin, may you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We do not have a revision to the agenda order. Student participation, I say this with a big smile showing all of my teeth and gums because we are so happy that we do have student participation today. As we know, this has been on pause for quite some time for obvious reasons, but nonetheless, we are very, very glad to present to you today Charter Oak International Academy Suzuki Tour Group. And so as they make their way in, we have a full house in here. And as much as we board members would love to say you're here to see us, we know that's not true. And so for that purpose, as our young talented musicians come in the room, we want for them to entertain all of us. So we're going to have them face you and we're going to join you so you all can benefit from their talents as well. So welcome Charter Oak Suzuki.
Shayla's line, move down a little bit this way, please. This way everyone has enough room. Yeah. Everyone's so excited to hear you. They'll wait till you space out. There we go. So we are so excited to be here today. We have 3 songs that we are going to perform for you. The first song is Allegro by Suzuki. The second song is French folk song. And then the third song is Snowflakes. Allegro.
Young people, before you leave the room, just wanted to take another opportunity to say how proud we are of each and every one of you. I'm trying to hold back tears. Oh, you are wonderful. You are resilient. This is the first time you've had young people here in over 2 years. And to see that you are here, you're smiling, you're showing your talents, you have a whole room full of proud people behind you. Please know that the opportunities for you are endless. Thank you so much for the leaders that are teaching them, inspiring them. I see familiar faces. I'm giving you air hugs. And we are so proud of you. But I have a very important question for you. Are you listening?
Yeah.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yes.
That's what's most important. Excellent. Wonderful job. Thank you so much. And parents, caregivers, those who are part of the village, we also give a round of applause to you as well. Thank you. All right. And as we continue on, it is now time for our public communications. This is where we are able to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions, your concerns. We certainly respect hearing from you, and we respect the respectful way in which you share your thoughts, your questions, and your concerns. Each individual has 3 minutes to speak. We ask for you please to come to the podium and share your name and your address. As you are speaking, please be mindful of Charlotte, who will hold up a yellow card to let you know when you have 1 minute remaining in your time. And when your time is expired, a yellow card will be raised, and we ask for you to please respectfully take your seat. As you are talking, know that we are attentively listening to you. However, it is policy that we do not respond to your comments in the moment or during the meeting as well. So with that, we do have a list, and we do know that per a recent policy change, we have shifted where we prioritize hearing from those that are speaking on agenda items first. And so I have a list here of agenda items, and for those that are listening, tonight's agenda items involve revised policies, the second reading, revised policies first reading, presentation of the capital improvement plan, and personnel report. And for those who have signed up on this list, we first have Anita.
I just want to say happy holiday, happy new year, and thank you for all you do. Have a great year.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anita Arakelian, and I live at 48 West Normandy Drive, and I'm here to speak about the second reading of 3440. Let's look at the facts. The first time the public saw what supposedly is revised was on December 6th. It was brought to the attention that what the public knows about this policy is what is written, is what is published. And that's a very key important point. What is published on the website? There shall be maintained in each school an accounting system. I won't read the whole thing because everyone, it was brought up last time. So that's the policy that we, the public, know. This is based on Section 10237, which starts, school activity funds. Any local or regional board of education may establish and maintain in the custody a school activity fund through which it may handle the finances of that part of the cost of the school. That starts with local board of education, which is you. Now, what has been supposedly proposed is the superintendent. That's a huge shift, and a very strong consideration has to be made for that. On December 6th, when this anomaly was brought forth, interim superintendent, Andrew Morrow, said, but it was approved on June 20th. So I went and pulled up the June 20th meeting minutes. And it says, Mr. Zaidanowicz moved and Dr. Thomas-Farquharson seconded that the Board of Education approve all model policies drafted by our legal counsel, Shipman and Goodwin, that are legally required. Now, what does that bring up? There were no two readings. And it also shows that nobody ever checked one against the other in terms of the policies. You would have had to have done that. That was not done. And interestingly enough, I go to the May 19th, 2020, 2 months after the schools were closed. What do I read? That the Board of Education adopted a revised 2020 to 2021 budget of $170 million. And you know what was approved? Eliminating fund for new math coach, $85,000. Motion passed 5-2. When you go to vote on each one of these, I would like a roll call so I know exactly how everyone's voting, because there seem to be a lot of inconsistencies and anomalies that cannot be explained. And $85,000 you couldn't afford out of $170 million, that's a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Addie.
Addie Lorden, 561 Park Road. I too am speaking on the second reading of the revised policies 3140 and 3440. Let's start with 3140. I attended the meeting on December 9th, the virtual meeting, and there are no minutes available. They are not on the website of this meeting, so I'm going by my records because I took notes, a lot of notes. In that meeting, Member Harris brought up that Member Goldman had put forward several questions. One of them was about variance, which I'm not going to pretend I know anything about finances, but I did research, and according to textbooks regarding variance, this is an essential and key factor in budgeting and reviewing the budget. It is very important. The financial director at this meeting stated while the word variance can be added, it would mean that she could not give everything in one report, which I find odd because you could put in that there's a zero variance, or you could present two separate reports if it's that difficult. I don't understand why, if in textbooks, variance is held as a very important control, and it is considered very important when budgeting and when reviewing budgeting, but it's not really essential when it comes to the financial director. Within 3140, again, the 5% cap, which I addressed in the last meeting, is very important. If we are going to give full control of the finances to the superintendent, whoever that may be, in 2023, with our budget, that's $9 million. Right now it's at $500,000. Unaccounted, doesn't have to. With 3440 student activity funds, the Director of Finance stated that all PTOs have EIN numbers, accounts, and are all 501c3. This is incorrect information. Only 3 PTOs in town have 501c3 standing, which means they are nonprofits. Their finances, what they distribute to the school, is to go only to those things that they have voted on. If you take it and put it into the town budget, then you are getting into IRS territory. You cannot do that. Also, under the state statutes, BOEs are to hold their own accounts. Right now, all accounts are held by the town, the black hole. Where is the money that was set forth for various issues, such as field trips, makerspace, that Webster Hill, that is a 501c3
Excuse me, your time has expired.
PTO, where is the money?
Thank you. Next, we have Graham.
Good evening. Graham Brown from Bainbridge Road, West Hartford. A little something I want to talk about real quick is an old school called the Carlisle Indian School. For those of you who may have read history, it's actually a very important piece of history that you should all read about. It's out of Carlisle, Pennsylvania, back in the late 1800s, around 1870s. It was a school that white Americans set up for Native American children. And what that involved was trying to, I'll put it this way, this was one of the things that they prided themselves on, this is their quote, "Kill the Indian, save the man." What that means is kill the culture, kill the beliefs, kill what their parents taught them, and teach them something that would be more whitewashed. So I bring this up because our country actually has a habit of doing this throughout the years. It's been done with Japanese children during the time of World War II, and it's happening today, not among racial lines, but by cultural and religious lines. There are parents who have beliefs that are not being respected and their views are not being tolerated. They're not being made aware of certain curriculum, and they're not being given the ability to opt out of it if they find it controversial or against their religious or cultural beliefs. We have people in this town who are Muslim, Jewish, Christian, Hindu, many of whom oppose the forced reading of gender identity books for this gender identity curriculum that was put under civics. So for the parents that are here tonight, I'll speak to you directly. There is a curriculum, if you're unaware of, okay, where your child is forced to learn about things like sex change and transgenderism all the way down to kindergarten. Now, you might feel that this is against your beliefs, or maybe you're okay with it. Either way, though, you don't have the right to say no to it. This is under civics. What the Board of Education needs to do is vote to move this back over to health so that parents can have the right to opt out of it. Another thing for parents that are here tonight, there's a program called DESA, D-S-S-A. Look this up when you get a chance. Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment. It is a data mining program that has been enacted in all of West Hartford schools right now that is taking information about your kid without your knowledge and not keeping it private because it is being shared with the Department of Education. And after that, it goes to a private dashboard called Aperture. And where your child's information goes beyond that, we don't know. But this is something that was not disclosed to parents. So there's a pattern of not disclosing information to parents in West Hartford, and there's a pattern of not respecting views. So what I'm asking the board tonight is to make a motion in the next few weeks or next few months to move the gender identity curriculum over to health where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on an agenda item? Okay, moving to the list for those who've signed up for general comments, we have Georgia.
Hello, my name is Georgia Caldwell, and I'm a sophomore at Hall High School. I'm here today to talk about the lack of supplementary math instruction in West Hartford public middle schools, and how this lack of intervention is impacting students, and how creating a math support center at King Philip, Sedgwick, and Bristow middle schools can benefit students and the West Hartford public school system as a whole. West Hartford Public Middle Schools' National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP, scores reflect a lack of proficiency in mathematics for middle school students, one that has only been exacerbated by the pandemic. As of 2022, 8th graders in West Hartford scored 23 points below the proficient level of 299 points on the NAEP. Something needs to change. Comprehension of the math curriculum taught in middle school is crucial for success in high school mathematics, and despite its immense importance, there is a lack of resources for students who are struggling in math. It is widely recognized and appreciated that every teacher in West Hartford Public Schools is dedicated to the learning and growth of their students. Yet, no matter how exemplary a teacher is, it's difficult to identify those who could benefit from intervention because teachers simply don't have the time to meet with each student individually. I was one of these students. All throughout middle school, I thought I was just bad at math and nothing could be done about it. Despite my success in my other subjects, I consistently failed every math class that I took. And no matter how much time I put into studying on my own, comprehension eluded me. What contributed to the difficulty I and many others likely experienced was the fact that there were virtually no resources one could use for supplementary instruction in math beyond extra homework. Going into my freshman year, I was worried about the implications that my lack of proficiency in math could have on my future. I didn't want to fail. Eventually, due to the unsurprising F I earned on my first test, I was introduced to my school's math center. At first, I was skeptical. I didn't think I was capable of understanding even the simplest of math concepts, even with extra help. After just a few weeks of intervention, my entire perspective shifted, and so did my grade. It had skyrocketed from a D to an A-. My comprehension of what had before seemed like foreign concepts opened my eyes to the possibility that I was capable of improving. This meant that I wasn't the problem. The problem was the lack of supplementary instruction. That is why West Hartford Public Middle Schools need to implement a free and accessible resource for middle school students who are struggling in math. This resource would be a math support center, an area where students can go during their study hall time in order to receive help with their homework and answers to any questions they may have regarding what they're studying in math. Even the strongest students can struggle academically, and an elective math center that is open to all would remove the taboo aspect of extra help for students, meaning that they wouldn't have to be failing a class in order to need help. This center would also benefit underserved students, building on West Hartford's goal for educational equity, because transportation and extra costs aren't involved. Any student can receive help. It is clear that this math support center will be successful because it already has been. It's already been implemented at Hall High School, and without it, I and many other students would continue to struggle with math. It is imperative that we reach out to middle school students and ensure that no one else falls behind in math. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment on a general topic? Anyone else? All right. Thank you so much. We will put a pause on public communications. And now we will move on to non-staff communications and reports. And this is where we certainly love to hear from our student representatives. So we will begin with Caitlin, please.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I have a few things to go through. First off, Little Shop of Horrors happened last week. It was amazing. I went to go see it. It was incredible. The Yukon Puppetry Department worked with the students to create Audrey 2, which is that giant plant that you may have seen, and they did an amazing job. It was an incredible performance. I was very impressed. Esports just went to go participate in finals at Quinnipiac University, which is very exciting. I believe they lost, but they got really, really far, and they're very good. I was not aware until now, so that was awesome. Currently, we're in a holiday spirit week. Today was meme day, I think. Yesterday was dress like a celebrity day. And I think there's dress like a teacher day and a few others that are coming up. Jazz for a Cause raised close to $3,000 for the Friends of Feeney organization that happened on, on November 6th, that we just got the total for and everything. Let me see. Friday was PJ Day, and although Megan is not here tonight to talk about this, we as a school community raised $6,042.41, which is really, really exciting. Sorry. Our previous record for donations collected by Hall's community was $1,975, so we did very well. And we are not only the top performing fundraiser in the state, but we are also the school with the most donors statewide, and our West Hartford Public Schools district team was the top performing team in the state. Yeah, so reiterating that information. Very cool, very good, very exciting. And finally, we have just winter sports moving through, started 2 weeks ago-ish, and that's going really well. So, yeah, that's my update. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Caitlin. We know that you have to depart in just a short while, but thank you so very much. And sharing updates on Conard on behalf of Megan, we'll pass it to our superintendent.
I have very little to share because we only found out late. But I can share that Conard upset East Hartford to win the Esports State Championship Super Smash Bros competition, which I actually remember playing with my kids a lot of years ago. It's a lot of fun. And Conard's ASL club had sold, over the past month, raised money and sold themed T-shirts to raise money for the holiday food pantries. And I believe at last count, they had raised enough money to cover over 250 meals that were then donated via the food pantries. And so that's what I have at this point from Conard.
Well, thank you so very much. Thank you. And Megan, we wish you well. Thank you. All right. As we continue on to unfinished business, where we have a motion by Dr. Lorna Thomas-Farquharson, Dr. Gayle Harris, and Dr. Jason Chang to accept revised policies as a second reading. And we have a recommendation that the Board of Education accept as a second reading and final reading the following policies which were revised by the Board Policy Subcommittee. This is Policy 1252 on Pesticide Application, 1900 on School Safety and Security, 3140 Board Budget Procedures and Line Item Transfers, 3440 Student Activity, 4300 Employees and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, 4400 Plan for Minority Educator Recruitment, 4500 Evaluation, Termination, and Non-Renewal of Athletic Coaches, 5150 Physical Restraint and Seclusion of Students and Use of Exclusionary Timeout, 5500 High School Graduation Requirements, 5525 Chemical Health Policy for Student Athletes, 5600 Management Plan and Guidelines for Students with Food Allergies, Glycogen Storage Disease, and/or Diabetes, 6300 Promotion and Retention, 6320 Weighted Grading and Calculation of Grade Point Averages, and 6342 Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Alternative Assessments for Students with Disabilities for statewide and district-wide assessments. So when we first presented this, we had a motion, second motion, which was accepted on the floor. We had discussion, so now we're here for the second reading, where we can continue with the discussion and ultimately move to a vote. We thank you so much, Ann McKernan, for being here with us. And so with that, team, please, any questions, comments regarding the policies that are being represented, that is, for a second reading?
We're doing all of them or just some? Or is there an
We're in
order?
discussion, so whichever order, whichever one comes to mind, if you have a question or comment, yes.
I can go. Okay, I'm going back to 3140, and just so it doesn't look like I'm trying to go, I did contact you by phone and by email and trying to throw my issues. The third paragraph of the report said the board shall review, or at least as I count three paragraphs, the recommendations, suggestions made by the fiscal authority as to how it may consolidate non-educational, et cetera. Can you tell me who the fiscal authority is? It's a question, it's not, I don't know. I was trying to.
Our fiscal authority is our fiscal office, our budget office.
Okay, because it sounds like it's coming from, all right, that's different. So fiscal authority is,
Our budget office.
I'm sorry, say
Our
again?
budget office.
Your budget office, okay. Okay. Then the fourth paragraph, I had the question of, it says, excuse me, following the annual appropriation, the board shall meet and revise the itemized estimate if necessary, et cetera. Annual appropriation, where does that come from?
The
That
annual
ref-
appropriation from the town council
Yes.
to the Board of Education.
That refers
the
to it, the
town-
town council. The town council makes adjustments to, the town council, once your budget is passed.
Okay.
Once you vote on a budget and pass the budget, it goes then to the town council. The town council then rolls that up into the larger town, and they have the authorization to vote to make cuts to your appropriation. They do not, however, have the authority to make specific cuts or targeted cuts. And they say, though, they could say you have to reduce by 100,000, by 500,000. It then comes back to you to make the determination as to where you would go ahead and cut your appropriation.
That's fine. My issue wasn't, just as I read it, it reads almost, to me, it read like we were getting the appropriation from the town. So if that's what it says, it's just, you guys are the educators, so
You are.
well, no, I trust you on the writing more than I trust myself.
No, I appreciate that. You are getting your you are getting your authority and your appropriation.
I understand, it's just the way it reads doesn't sound like I would have thought it said, hey, we came up with a budget, the town approves the budget, as opposed to we get it and then we go for variances. Okay. So then, on the second page, it said, the superintendent may recommend to transfer 5% as awful. Basically, I realize this comes from the lawyers and they're not involved in the process, but it just seems like you guys recommend, we vote. The superintendent doesn't change it. So the wording is clear.
If I may jump in, only because I so appreciate the questions, but I want to make sure that we direct them to us here, because we're the policy subcommittee.
Okay.
Because I don't want to put Ann on.
I just finished
No.
using the authority. That's
That's
fine. I'll address it to Lorna then. Okay.
No, the policy subcommittee, which ultimately presents to the board, and we will collectively vote yes. So respect the questions, just want to make sure that we all
Okay.
are contributing to responding yes.
All right. So I guess my question was, basically, and I've only been here a year, you've come, said, here's the variance, which I realize is the word you don't want to use, but here's the difference. Here's how we're modifying it to work. But I haven't seen you say this is the superintendent, whether Andy or Tom or whoever, nor do I see the purpose in saying I'm making this change now. It's a collaborative effort, not a dictatorial effort, if that makes sense.
I don't understand the question.
So the way I guess I'm struggling with the way it reads.
Okay, can I also just clarify that this is not a change. This policy goes back on our website until the revisions go back to 1988 with this language. So I just wanted to say, it's not a change. I think if and again, maybe Ann can articulate this better because you've been working with the subcommittee, but the way that it's always worked is that understand that $180 million operating budget, you're passing this year based on a lot of different assumptions in different categories. These assumptions are going to change between the moment you go ahead and pass it to the moment we open up school next August, based on staffing, based on students with special needs, based on services that may be needed to be mandated and provided on that, and enrollment numbers and so forth. And so what this is doing is giving the authority that the finance office and Liz Hewitt and her staff can go through and allocate the resources and offset any changes that we need. This is what's then reported via the financial examiners on a monthly basis when you go through and present the monthly financial examiner's report. It'll show an offset in, for example, this year we have less amount in our substitute line that was allocated by the budget, say $200,000, and we've had to put more that money shifted over to the budget item for contracted services, because if we can't hire a substitute to do that position, we may have to contract that out with a local provider. And so that's simply, from an accounting standpoint, giving Liz's office and the district the authorization and the authority to make those adjustments, still reporting to the board on that, but not having to go every time proactively and saying, we're going to have to move $250,000 from this to this pocket to allocate that. Is that?
No, I got that.
Okay.
I'm involved in the financial exam.
I know, that's why.
And where I'm struggling is, I read this 2 weeks ago, and I didn't even realize it was a policy I'm involved in. And so now I went back, read it, and I realized you guys are not the authors. I realize it's from an outside agency. But if we're going to have a policy, then it should describe what we do. And to me, this doesn't do it.
Okay.
And I just...
I would just say, I think it is what we do. I think it is what we do every month. We come and report, and we have a certain amount of leeway because, as Dr. Morrow said, we can't predict the year. Things will come up, so there is some leeway, and we report every month both to the financial examiners prior to the first board meeting of each month, where we report to all of you, and Liz and her office will go through, here were the changes this month. And yes, it does cite 5%, which has been in for a long time, and I from what I've heard, we've never ever get near that. It's usually much less, but it does provide the buffer to move money the way it does. And it seems to me this is exactly what we do. So I'm unsure of what
I guess I realize it sounds like nitpicking, except I do this for regular life.
No, I appreciate that.
And to me, words, if you're going to have a policy, I don't know. I'm struggling because the 5% is very high. I'm also really struggling because it's not what I recognize that happens, but I think I'm going to beat the thing into the ground, so I will give up at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Claire and then Jason.
So my understanding is that once a month, and I'm now in the financial examiner role, that I look at what was agreed upon as the budget and where there's shifts. So if you can't fill enough positions, you must bring in substitutes. If that amount is less than 5%, the town or the Board of Ed, not the Board of Ed, but the financial office can adjust, cover the sub costs, know that the salary cost is going to be less, and then every month we're told where they shifted. So the decision to shift doesn't need a phone call to people on the Board of Ed in between that monthly financial report.
That's not what as I read this is what it says to me.
I guess where is something happening that you don't think should happen?
No, well, first of all, I think 5% is extreme, but I realize that comes from the state. It just seems crazy. What I'm saying is basically what it would be is, if you were to word it, I would word it as I guess variance isn't a word, but we have a variance of positive variance of X, as long as that stays above the negative variances, then we're set. But it should be something to that effect, as opposed to, it sounds like here, is to make transfers as necessary. Transfers to what? I mean, I could go, the words just don't, they're not actionable the way they're written to me. So, I don't know. I think I'm talking to myself, but because it's just the words, the way I see them as word it differently. But I don't claim to be a wordsmith, so it could be.
Jason.
All right, thank you. First I want to thank you, Ethan, for the other changes that you recommended to the policy. I think it is more clear. It does reflect our practice. And what I think is perhaps maybe confusing or complicated about what we're doing here is we're updating policies, but there are many other sets of policies, practices that dictate and shape the practice of day-to-day work. We're just looking at one slice of it. And this is particular to the budget procedures, line item transfers. That's the function of this particular policy. And I understand maybe you're interested in perhaps curbing malfeasance, mismanagement, something like that. But in my mind, I look at this in terms of like, that is covered by other fiduciary responsibilities of financial officers in the district, and other policies that dictate the roles and responsibilities within the district. So in some ways, I feel like, trying to shape this policy to do everything is like trying to stop drunk driving with reducing the speed limit. But these are different kinds of things, right? So I think this actually does a good job of doing the business of identifying those authorities, right? given what we've seen with the pandemic, the need to be able to be swift on our feet, meet the needs of our children, meet the needs of the schools. So I think in the larger scheme, does this keep going out?
Should have switched up this.
I'll make it quick. The machine doesn't want me to speak. What I'm trying to say is I think we have a really strong policy here that does fit what we do, and the other parts of our business, the other parts of how the district runs, exist in other policies, right? These are just, in some ways they're not about covering the entire functionality of the budgeting procedures, but this is one that we're updating here, and I think it works well.
Okay, so if I could just respond. So I'm not saying anything's wrong. I don't think anything's wrong. I'd be stunned if there was. I think it's just, we have a policy. If we're going to have a policy, then the policy should fit what we do. I'm involved in the actual involvement or review in a limited sense, and I just don't recognize it, but that's me. So I accept the fact that we're relying on the lawyers to do it. I think in this case, they're wrong. But
Well,
there was
I'm mostly
not-
relying on our financial office and Liz Hewitt, who I trust implicitly to operate and to do it.
Okay, well, I trust Liz too. I
Okay.
just don't think it's written.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments on any other policies?
I had some more. Could I ask on 3440? And again, it's more questions than anything. It lists 3 different types of programs. One's a school lunch, which I recognize. 2, that talks about possible cost of a driver education program. Okay, that's what I assumed. And then I'm assuming, but I don't know, 3, such funds of schools and school organizations may determine, is that the 8 funds that are listed on, well, I give you a page, but it changes. There are 8 funds that are listed.
These are school activity funds that are established in each school with a separate bank account that help the school to do activities in the school.
Okay.
It's not reported there in that book. These are things such as, the easiest example is the prom.
Is for what?
The prom is a great example. Another example might be a field trip. Students are going on a field trip, they all come in, they pay $10, someone needs to collect that and send a check to and it has to happen quickly, very fluid. So this allows the schools to operate those types of funds. It is not
the
reported
musical,
in
the
your
theater program, programs like that, where they're taking money in to pay bills to provide an activity for students.
So, and again, I'm just trying to understand. So would it be that there's one fund per school and it commingles the money, or is there a separate fund for the prom, separate fund for this school trip, a separate fund for this theater group, or?
Well, they keep each of those items. Yeah, they keep
So it's
accounting
commingled.
each.
The answer is yes. There is a
One
separate
account.
fund for each, but they're also commingled. There's separate accounting for each of the groups, but they're commingled within each school has the one bank account
Right,
for that.
And it refers to the town auditor. Is that a internal auditor, or is that the external auditor?
This is.
That's at the bottom of page 7, the last, series 3440, sorry. The accounts of the school activity fund shall be considered town accounts and should be audited by the town auditor in the same manner as all other town accounts.
Those are external auditors. They come in, Liz, how often?
That's correct. They come in once a year. And
Once a year.
It's included in our annual audit. It's a fund that's included.
How often, how much time do they spend? I'm just curious.
I don't know how many hours they have dedicated to it. It's part of their field work.
Okay.
Again, that's through the town.
No, I
Yeah.
understand that. I could give you my thought process, how much time they spend, but that's a different issue. All right. All right, thank you. I'll let others have fun.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, well, let us proceed to a vote. And so with that, again, a motion has been made that those that have been presented for a second reading be passed. And so with that, we have the motion, we've had the second, we've had the discussion. All of the, yes.
Sorry, can we vote on them, are we gonna vote on them separately?
We can do that. We can do that. All right. Starting with 1252, all of the pesticide application, all of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. 1900, school safety and security, all of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? These ayes have it. 3140, board budget procedures and line item transfers, all of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
One opposed. Any abstentions? All right.
Abstention.
One opposed, one abstentions, 5 ayes. The ayes have it. 3440, Student Activity Fund. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. 4300, Employees in Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. 4400, Plan for Minority Educator Recruitment. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. 4500, Evaluation, Termination, and Non-Renewal of Athletic Coaches. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. 5150, Physical Restraint and Seclusion of Students and Use of Exclusionary Timeout. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. 5500, High School Graduation Requirements. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. 5525, Chemical Health Policy for Student Athletes. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. 5600, Management Plan and Guidelines for Student with Food Allergies, Glycogen Storage Disease, and/or Diabetes. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. 6300, Promotion and Retention. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. 6320, Weighted Grading and Calculation of Grade Point Averages. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. 6342, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Alternative Assessment for Student with Disabilities for statewide and district-wide assessments. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. All right, so all of the policies that were presented for second reading have passed. And with that, we now will move on to new business, where we have a motion by Dr. Lorna Thomas-Farquharson, Dr. Gayle Harris, and Dr. Jason Chang to accept revised policies as a first reading. So again, we have another collection of policies to present as a first reading. As we've gone through before, these are ones that will help us to be aligned with state and federal statutes. And so with that here, seeking a motion that the Board of Education accept as a first reading the policies which were revised by the Board Policy Subcommittee, referring to Policy 1415, Possession of Deadly Weapons or Firearms, 1425, Automatic External Defibrillators, 2250, Uniform Treatment of Recruiters, 3515, Green Cleaning Program, 3560, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Fiscal Compliance, 4100, Family and Medical Leave, and 8351, Meeting Conduct. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. And again, this is the first reading, so we will not vote today. Any discussion on these policies here? Ethan.
The policy 2200, although I guess it's 2250, I'm not sure. The one about recruiters. Page 42. So, I was confused. If a parent objects and the student's over 18, what's the situation? Because it's basically military. I don't know if I've never heard of anybody objecting to college recruiter.
It is, if we have objection, it is military often.
I would assume so. You were. You just heard it.
Sorry, yes, you're correct to say we haven't heard objections to college recruiters. Usually the documents are sent to parents if they want to not have their child on the list. You're saying if the child is 18?
I'm just asking.
Honestly, I'd have to check into I'd have to ask the counselors. I haven't heard of that situation, but the parents usually get that option.
Okay. Well, it's just, at what point does a parent,
If a parent said no, but the child said yes, is that what you're wondering?
Yeah. Yeah, at what point does the child, who's no longer a child, they can vote, they can
But
drink.
when they're in school, we generally treat them as
No, I
as
understand
students.
that. I was just curious,
Yeah.
in terms.
I can check into the procedures that they use.
Well,
But-
remember also that this is just pertaining to the disclosure of the names. There's nothing that stops then an 18-year-old of going and walking or calling and getting their own information on this, regardless
No, I
if the
understand.
parents don't
They
want
can-
it, yeah.
They don't have to do it in the school either.
Correct.
But
Correct.
it just struck me as strange. I'm good.
All right, other questions? Claire?
Just curious, does anybody object?
I think there are some, yes.
Okay.
I don't have a number.
Right,
But I
right.
have, when I was a principal, I'd have some parents call me and said, I don't want my children's names given to recruiters.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll reconvene for a second reading. Thank you very much, Anne. All right. Now moving on to presentation of the capital improvement plan for 2023-2024. We will have the recommendation that the
Lorna,
board...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I believe you have to actually go through and adopt accept the first reading with a vote for the policies. I believe that's been our procedure.
Okay, pardon me. Well,
I just don't want you to have to then go ahead and do it again.
No, that's
So they
fine.
do it once.
Appreciate that pardon. So yes, thank you. So we had the motion, which was seconded. We had the discussion. Let us now vote to accept these as a first reading. Thank you so much, Andy. All of those in favor for accepting the motion, the policies that we reviewed as a first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Wonderful, thank you. Thank you once again. And now we will have the presentation of the capital improvement plan for 2023-2024, where we have a recommendation that the Board of Education receive the capital improvement plan for 2023-2024 and begin the process of reviewing for final approval and adoption at the February 2nd, 2023 Board of Education meeting. So let us first have a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Now we'll have discussion in the presentation. Thank you.
So if I could, this is exciting because rarely do we get to see Bob Palmer before the holidays. Usually this is done in January after the holidays, but there was a conflict with that meeting date, so we did move this forward. And so we have Bob and Ann and Liz here tonight to talk about the projects that we've had underway and the projects that we have planned. Remember that the capital project and the capital budget, as they'll go through, I'm sure, as they can explain much better than I can, is then rolled up into the town, and the town then includes that as part of their capital projects, that we don't have any fiscal authority when it comes to capital. Okay?
Great. Thanks for having us, and we're glad to be here, even though it's a little weird being here in December. So thanks for accommodating my schedule. I appreciate that. So every year we come and we present the capital program for you, and this will be the first for the presentation. You'll receive the report tonight, and then we'll come back in February and with follow up, and hopefully we'll adopt the capital project. And as Andy explained, in the capital improvement program is really, we act like a department for the town, and this will go to the town council, to the town manager for inclusion in the town's CIP, and then the town council will ultimately vote on this as part of their budget process in April. So it's really important, we adopt in this process, we adopt for 2 years, though we do additional planning. We do some very specific planning for 3 years of projects, and we also fiscally project for 12 years. So we'll begin first, I'll walk you through the plan that we've come up with this year, and then if you have questions, certainly we can answer those. So we'll talk a little bit about what happened last year and where we're going in the future years here. So for the 2023 capital improvement plan, the council did not modify the Board of Education's adopted budget, as you can see in Table 1 on page 57 of your packet. So as we expected, all the funds were received by the Board of Education. So what did we actually end up doing? So the construction world and projects continued to be a little difficult. So we had experiences with a limited number of bidders on projects. A lot of contractors and vendors are having labor issues, as many companies and other organizations across the country and the world are doing. We continue to see supply chain issues. We've very recent, in the last year, we saw quite an escalation in construction costs in certain areas, especially. Roofing, for example, we saw 30% increases. HVAC, any type of electrical switch gear, we saw double of pricing in those areas. We also saw lead times up to a year plus on those items to get those in. So it's really kind of changing our approach to some of these. So we've had to adjust schedules and scopes and kind of realign some of the things that we were looking to do. So in moving forward last year, we did get quite a few things done. As you remember, the year before, we kind of experienced a lot of similar things. So we had a lot of projects that were backed up. So we got to some of those, and we moved forward on some of our other projects, and other projects got delayed. So, and it's really important to remember that the capital program is fluid. The funds are received from the town. We don't lose those funds. We don't have to spend those in one fiscal year. They stay there until we utilize those funds. So we have time to do these projects. We like to get them done as fast as we can, but with delays, with the number of issues that I've spoken about, it's really difficult to do that right now. So we're doing our best to adjust to those types of situations, but and to move forward with the improvements to our buildings. So as you recall, and some of you are new, we have several different categories of projects, and we have some reoccurring projects, and then we have also additional projects that have a shorter lifespan. So typically, and so I'll go through these categories and explain what we did, and then we'll talk about where we're going again. So asbestos removal. So asbestos, we have asbestos in just about all our buildings. So the majority of our buildings are older and have asbestos in them. It's a very manageable situation. We're well aware of what's there. We have asbestos management plans in place. All of our projects test for asbestos and are on the lookout for asbestos. So we use the asbestos account to cover those costs as part of our capital projects. So typically we'll find asbestos in old flooring tile, or the mastic that holds the tile down. We sometimes find it in adhesives on roofs, those types of things. So we're well aware where they are. Things are tested to make sure that we're identifying where asbestos is, and we utilize the funds in the asbestos account to handle those. So that's generally where that goes, and so that it covers the cost of asbestos removal from other projects that we do. So, computer infrastructure, we replace computer hardware, approximately 1,500 devices each year, as part of our annual refresh on that. Furniture and equipment, we continuously replace furniture and equipment throughout the district. This includes desks, student desks, tables, chairs, lockers, all types of various other small equipment. This is a capital non-reoccurring account, so it's not capitalized, but it's items that are not really part of our operating, but cannot be capitalized. So, heating and ventilation systems. Of course, in the last few years, we've all learned more about these great systems that we have. We have replacement programs for for this equipment. Again, we saw escalating prices this year in this area, and also quite long lead times on the equipment. So our plan for the last year was to replace the auditorium air handler at King Philip and also to do a boiler replacement at Webster Hill. So we have several schools that still have old steam boilers, and while it's an old technology, but it works, and it's good for our old buildings, but ideally we would like to get away from steam boilers, just because they do utilize a lot of energy and they're hard to control. So basically the steam goes on and the building gets hot and it stays hot. So we would like to go through and replace these with hot water systems eventually. But so at King Philip, we did get the auditorium air handler. It's currently still on order. It's been on order for 6 months plus. So we're hopeful it's going to be it's supposed to be in December. I don't think it's really going to happen. But and then the other interesting thing about Webster Hill, and it's tied into the fresh air. The elementary fresh air project that we're doing. So as part of that project, we're going to be able to eliminate the boiler at Webster Hill and then heat the building electrically through heat pumps with the fresh air system that we're going to do. So in the meantime, we're going to continue to maintain the boiler that's there, but then eventually when we get to Webster Hill and replace that system in the next few years, we'll be able to eliminate the boiler plant and then heat the building with the heat pumps, which will also provide fresh air and also cooling. So we'll move from really to an electric-based building. This is very similar to what we do at Charter Oak right now, even though that's geothermal with heat pump system. But it is really the way to go in the future. So it really solves two problems with one project. So we're kind of excited about that, and we really see opportunities for that at other buildings going as we go forward, such as Bugbee and Whiting Lane, which have old steam boilers. So we'll be able to hopefully replicate that design in those future buildings. Exterior school building improvements, typically this is masonry and roof repairs. So we have 1.8 million square feet of interior space, probably about just a little bit over 1 million in roofs. So we're always doing roofs. We'll continuously do roofs. Again, we saw quite an escalation in roof pricing this year. We also ran into problems with design professionals, just being able to find people to design the roofs and get them out to bid. So we had planned on doing Hall and Sedgwick and Braeburn last year. We ran into difficulty with some design, especially at Hall. Sedgwick and Braeburn, the pricing again just put us out of the market for Braeburn. It was way too much. So we did get Sedgwick completed. We'll put Braeburn out to bid again this year, and we'll continue to work on Hall in the future years coming. We also did some masonry repairs at Hall last year, which is an ongoing project. Interior school building improvements. We're typically doing flooring and painting. We did some renovations. We planned on doing those at King Philip and Webster Hill. We did a renovation of the Hall Culinary Arts Kitchen was the plan, and also interior restroom renovations at Conard Hall and Sedgwick. I believe you've heard about the Conard ones multiple times from our student representative, and the Hall ones, yes. So we were able to get all three of those done, which is great. So they really were overdue for renovation. It's a big impact in the buildings. So at Sedgwick, it was a long project. It went into the school year a little bit longer than we had hoped for. It's really phase one. We'll come back again next year and do phase two of that. But at Hall and Conard, we were able to complete those. We did flooring and painting at Webster Hill. We weren't able to secure a contractor for King Philip, so we'll put that back out to bid this year. And we did complete the Hall Culinary Arts Kitchen, which came out really very nicely. So it's quite an improvement to that space. For site and athletic improvements, we had planned on doing a visitor bleacher replacement at Conard. We'll get playground equipment. And then paving at Braeburn and King Philip. So Conard, we postponed the bleacher replacement due to supply issues. Woolkett Playground is on order. It is still on order. So again, very, very long lead times, almost approaching a year on that. Paving at Braeburn and King Philip, again, we experienced some design delays. So what we did instead was we kind of reached down the list a little bit and went ahead and paved Morley and Webster Hill playgrounds, which were scheduled for later years. So that way we could get some work done during the last summers, because those were simpler projects that didn't really require extensive design. So for stage and auditorium renovations, we had planned on replacing the hall and King Philip seating. We did both of those. Both of those projects are currently still in process. So we're doing small sections at a time, working around the school schedule for activities in the auditoriums, and we'll continue to do that through the school year. School security, our plan was to redo the main entrance at Norfolk, and this includes creating that person trap where people are buzzed into the vestibule, and then they're again buzzed into the office. And we also renovated the main office at the same time. And again, quite an improvement there that was completed. Woket, we had planned on doing some type of a controlled entry thing, but we're going to come and talk to you a little bit more about that with an additional project that we'd like to do. And then we did exterior door replacements at both Bugby and King Philip. Those were not building-wide, but those were selected doors at those buildings. So, and typically we're replacing the old original wood door on the building with a new modern door. So it relates to school security. High school tennis courts. So we had planned on replacing the tennis courts at both Conard and Hall. We were very fortunate to receive a state grant for those late in the spring, which delayed the projects a little bit, the start of those. So they're substantially complete at this point. The concrete is down, the fencing is up. They're going to be ready to play on those in the spring. They will play on the bare concrete surface. It'll be lined for them for the spring season, and then come summer when the weather warms back up, we can apply the final play surface coating. So we were able to get those completed. And again, we got a very generous grant from the state to cover that. So, any questions on that before I move on to what we plan on doing?
Ethan.
Oh, just to clarify, on the table 2, is proposed, that was proposed to February 21 or 22? I'm just trying to follow, so.
22, you're correct.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yep, sorry.
21 just seemed, okay. And it's for fiscal year July 1st, 22 to June 20.
June 23. Correct. Yeah.
Is it just, and then one thing is, and I don't know how difficult this is to do, to me, it would be helpful if there was a way just to show 2 more columns, one work complete or percentage complete, and then, the dollars complete. So, because otherwise, you just don't know. But if it can't be done, it can't be done. But I don't know if there was a way that could be easily done. I mean, some of them, like the asbestos, I realize you can show how much the dollars were spent, but it's just a request if you can do it.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that and see. It's the accounting system on the town side is how we would have to look at that and see how they could do that for us.
Okay,
So,
or just even ballpark.
Yep, okay.
Because otherwise, it's sort of a vacuum.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm good.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, Gayle, yes.
I just was wondering if you could clarify on some of these proposals here. It says bonds and grants, and I'm assuming is that a grant from the state? Who gives that grant?
Yeah, so there are grants available for the state. Sometimes the school construction program from the Department of Administrative Services is a large part of where our grants come from for school construction. So they'll cover certain types of projects, such as asbestos abatement. They'll cover certain projects, certain parts of that. Roofs, they'll cover part of those costs as well. So there's very different varieties of grants that you can apply for and go through the process for. There's also school security grants that we receive. It's a different program. And then we'll also, like with the tennis courts, we received a special legislation from the bonding on that. So there's various different types of grants that we do receive.
So on the bonding, can you just, I'm not totally familiar with how that works. Does that mean that?
We'll have Liz talk about that.
So we're not involved in that at all. It's something that the town handles, but the town goes out and bonds each year they issue general obligation bonds based upon the expenditures that they expect to have in the upcoming year based on a projection of which projects will be done. So when we submit our CIP and when other departments do, they look at that, they adopt it, they do a 12-year plan via a capital financing model to see how they will utilize all of their resources to pay for these improvements. So they try to maximize grants. Some projects, as Bob alluded to earlier, are paid through our CNRE fund, and then the balance, we go out and issue general obligation bonds. Generally, the bonds are issued based on the life expectancy of whatever it is we're working on. So for example, if we're doing street work, that lasts 30 years. If we're doing computer hardware, that's much smaller or much shorter. So they look at the term of that, they determine how much we need and what the appropriate term of the bond is, and then we go out and we issue general obligation bonds.
But that's on the town side.
It's all on the town side. In fact, with any of this, the Board of Ed does not manage any of the financing for capital projects. We just make the recommendation as to what we feel the schools need.
Okay. And then I just had one last question here on the air quality improvement. That's a 15-year, right? And each year we're spending like between $3 to $5 million per year, correct?
Correct, yeah. There'll be years where we do not do a project because we'll need some more money than that. So we're estimating right now, like some of these projects will be $7 million. So we'll have to take a year to save a little bit of money and build that reserve up and then go out and do the project. So, but we do, but it is a 15-year program and it's addressing air quality at 9 of our schools.
Right.
So.
I brought this up last year, and it's very hard for me to understand, like, how these things cost, this amount of money. I mean, just like on a tennis court, which is something I actually do understand. I mean, if you want to put a tennis court in your backyard, it's like $30,000, $40,000, and we're paying, it seems, like 5 to 7 times that. And I think it was you last year, I believe you were here, you told me that certain people have to have, a certain benefit set and a certain wage set because of state. But even with all of that, it just seems like, to be spending like $200,000 to $300,000 on a tennis court that's already there. It's already there, and we're just kind of, revamping it. It just seems like hard sometimes to understand why we're paying these exorbitant amounts of money for these things.
Yeah, so an example of the tennis courts is, one that you would put in your backyard would be a simple paving. The tennis courts that we just built are a concrete, high-tension concrete. So it's very specialized construction, and it's going to last 30 years. The play surface will have a 20-year warranty. The concrete will be 30 years. An asphalt the ones that we had before were asphalt bituminous concrete, and that cracks and shrinks over time. So the lifespan on that's about 15 years. So we really invested in this, and again, we're doing 12 courts at each school, so 24 total courts. It's quite a thing, and then all the fencing and all the other the drainage. All the other site work, the removal of what was there. So it is quite a bit. We're also subject to prevailing wage. So under state law, so any project over $100,000 in the public sector is subject to prevailing wages, which adds a lot to our costs. So, and additionally, the price of concrete was skyrocketed in the last year. I mean, I had an estimate for these tennis courts a couple of years ago that was about half the price. Around 1.7 to 2 million. So, and it really just escalated exponentially over the last year and a half. So okay.
Jason.
Thank you for the presentation, and it's helping me to remember conversations that we've had in the past. I'm really excited about the savings that we're going to get from the Webster Hill changes. Can you describe a little bit what kind of savings we could expect, or what that looks like? It maybe not savings?
Maybe not savings, no, probably not.
No,
so,
okay. Better use of money.
There we go. Okay.
Well, we'll have a much better environment. That's what learning environment. So we'll have new windows for the building. We'll also have new air systems. So
Yeah.
for each of the classroom spaces. So that's what's really important there. There probably is not energy savings there because we're adding a lot of electrical equipment.
I see.
Air handlers and those types of things. So our electrical use will go up quite a bit. It'll be high efficiency, so it'll be the best that we can get at the time, and it'll be under we'll have what we call direct digital controls, DDC controls, where we can control the whole building via computer. So we'll have good control. We can manage it well, but we expect our it's because we're going to convert we'll lose the natural gas cost, but we'll increase our electricity costs. So we'll certainly see an increase in electricity. So I take an example, the old Charter Oak building versus the new one. So that had an old steam boiler. We also pretty much doubled the square footage. Well, 30,000 more square feet than what we had. So, and we probably raised our electrical, again, we don't use any natural gas in that building. It's all electric. But we probably spend about $100,000 more on that than we did with the old building. So yes, the old building as it is right now is very inefficient. Has leaky windows, and the old steam boiler is expensive to operate and maintain. But so we'll gain efficiency, but we definitely will end up spending more money on electricity. But we'll have a better environment and more efficient.
Yeah, and less subject to price increases for natural gas.
Yes, we're correct. Right.
Right. I wonder if there could be maybe this is high school level math, a calculation of how much carbon we're saving.
Oh, yeah, we certainly can do that as part of the project. So we can definitely look at the emissions that we would save. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then this is just another plea from the heart. For any exterior and interior painting that's being done, could any of those projects become student-driven mural projects? And I don't want to involve child labor in the painting of the schools. No. But if any of the painting projects can be transformed into a mural project, I would extremely be pleased.
And I could share that's something that they're always looking at when, especially at the elementary school level, they're always working on that and always looking at that. I know that I believe Aiken has done that as well recently, as well as the Wolcott, which you saw.
Right. All right. So I'll move into the 12-year CIP plan. So Table 3 is really a projection of where we think we're going to go for fiscal years 24 to 2030 to 2035. And you'll see that we have our reoccurring accounts. You will notice the stage and auditorium account ceases to exist after the 25-26 fiscal year. We will have completed renovating the majority of our auditorium spaces by then, and we should be in pretty good shape for that. So we'll discontinue that program. Though we are in these next 2 fiscal years asking for a new program, the Wolcott Security and Office Improvements, and I had alluded to that a little bit before. So the first year we're asking for $500,000, and that's really for the design work and for the preliminary pre-construction costs to do what we would like to do here. Ideally, what we would like to do is to take right now, if you're familiar with Wolcott, a lot of you are. You come to the entrance of the building, you get buzzed in. You get buzzed into the lobby, and you're able to. The office is across the hall, so there's no good way of controlling people as they're coming into the building like we have at most of the schools. So we've kind of looked at it many different ways, and there's really no good solution there. Part of it is because that hallway is a fire egress route, and it's the major corridor between the library and media center, the office, the classrooms, and the cafeteria and the auditorium. So it's you cannot impede that hallway at all. So our thoughts is to come out and to move the office to the camp, where the canopy is to the front entrance, is to take that space and to convert that into the office/entrance area. Give them a new main office, perhaps a little bit more square footage than what they have right now, and maybe get a few more staff people in there. The other problem we're having at Wolcott is we have a need for a lot of small group instructional space. And right now they're utilizing a lot of awkward spaces throughout the building, and they're also taking some of the classrooms that are not utilized full-time and dividing those into spaces. And they're having 3 small group sessions going simultaneously in a classroom. Unfortunately, because of the way that building is constructed, especially with the sloping roof and the ventilation system, I cannot just create 3 rooms within a classroom. It's just not feasible to do that. So what we would do is to take the old main office and renovate that into some smaller group spaces, and would free up some space within the building. So we feel like that's a better solution. We've looked at a couple different ways of doing this, maybe some temporary portable type situations, but they really don't need classrooms. They really need that small group instruction space to alleviate the problems that they're having over there. And it also is really important is that it alleviates the security problem we have there with the main office. And that really is the focus of this, is to get that office pushed to the front of the building and to get that person trap in place, and we can control that entrance while still maintaining a front entrance to the building. So that's an additional project that we're adding for a program enhancement. Would be 2 years for a total of $3 million. So we've also, in this 12-year capital improvement plan, substantially increased the elementary air quality improvement line item, just based on, right now we're just about to go out to bid for the Duffy project, and our engineers and architects are giving us estimates of double of what we had estimated 3 years ago. So, and again, we've been seeing this in the bidding that we've been doing on smaller projects. On the town side, I've had some other HVAC projects, and I've seen the same results. A doubling of the pricing for where we thought it was going to be. So really, we're increasing that line item substantially. Again, spread out over the 15 years. Otherwise, I think it would be hard for the town to absorb that if we tried to do it in 9 years, as Gayle was asking about. So if we spread it out, we'll get a couple of projects going in the first few years, and then we'll probably have to take us a 1-year break, go to another project, and then accumulate again. Wait for some funds to accumulate until we can do another one. But it is a plan. It'll work for us. And again, we have design that has to happen. We have to order equipment. So there needs to be a little bit of flexibility in this. So, okay. Any questions on that before I go back?
Gayle, then Ethan.
Does every project on here go out to open bid?
Yes, everything is subject to public bid, correct.
And can you just in a nutshell explain how that happens?
Sure. So even for the design process, we go out to bid to get design professionals, to an architect or an engineer to design a project. So there's a bidding process for that. So it gets posted on the town's website. People submit a bid for that, and then based on that, the town staff and I sit in and review that, and we select somebody. So we have obviously we're looking for a good price, but we're also looking for good quality. So especially in the design process. So we're looking for people that are qualified and who can do the job and on time and are competent. So those are just some of the core things that we're looking for. And this is the same thing when a project goes out to bid. So then an engineer or architect designs a project, they design the specifications for that. The town, again, will put it out to bid. Typically there's a pre-bid meeting where they're invited to come look at the project. We'll answer questions. The design team will answer questions. We as the owners will answer questions if they have concerns. There'll be some back and forth, what we call a request for information period, where people can submit questions. And then there'll be a deadline where people will submit their bids. And again, we'll put together a committee typically to review those bids. We'll bring in the lowest 3 to 5 bidders, depending on where the bids come in, interview those people, and again, select a contractor to execute the program, to execute the project, so.
And is it your experience that there are like multiple bidders on these projects?
That's what we hope for. It's not what we've been seeing.
It's really, I mean, it's really almost a crapshoot on a lot of it, Gayle. We've seen, I mean, in the past 5 years, it's changed so much. We would have 5, 6 bids on some projects, and we've had certain projects we haven't done because there may have been 2 bidders and we didn't trust that either one of them had the capacity to complete the project. We're also, that's a big issue for us because we have a very short window to do these projects in that we start the day kids leave the building, and we have a deadline, and if we don't think someone can manage that, then we won't do the project and we'll just have to postpone it again.
Right. We have had, in the last year, we've had a couple projects with 0 bidders. So some people just, sometimes sometimes it's the schedule that scares them away. So we'll have to rethink. Sometimes we have to rethink it. Like the Sedgwick restrooms, we originally had bid that as one project, and I think we had some bidders on it, but then the prices were so outrageous. It was just too much. And then in talking to the bidders, we understood we couldn't do it in one summer, so we broke it into 2 phases. So we'll go back out to bid for phase 2 this year and come back and do that. So, yep.
Ethan.
So my question was about the elementary school air quality improvements. So you said the costs are now like double approximately.
Mhm.
So I assume this is in theory, a finite project once you're done, or is it a continuous, you gotta keep updating the schools because it's gonna be a long period based on what.
Yeah, so I think the lifespan on this equipment will be at least 25 years. But again, there'll be some maintenance and those types of things to maintain it. But yeah, so I mean, there was, some of the air handlers we have in some of our buildings is original stuff from the 50s and 60s. So if it's well maintained and stuff, it'll last.
So in theory, it's
Sure.
not a reoccurring, it's a.
Yeah, right. So that's why it's a program enhancement, right? Yeah.
So how long do you think that's gonna take in total? Because how many schools have you done out of?
We haven't done any yet. So we're about to go out to bid for Duffy, right?
And it's double?
Yep. So we did estimates about 3 years ago when we first proposed this, and since that time, things have doubled. And that's really been in the last year.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so it's gonna be a while.
yes. Yeah, it's going to take time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the other thing to remember on the HVAC is that, we're one school district in the whole country and everybody's doing this. So I think that's why you're seeing 1, long lead times, and then 2, prices the way they are, so.
And I have heard just in real life about the delays in getting product and.
Sure, yep.
Luckily, we're not putting in pools anywhere because that's also something that Bob will tell you is not going well for the town.
No, it is not.
Claire and then Renee.
So thank you for the report.
Sure.
And I noticed, in the next 4 years, the asbestos removal, computer infrastructure, furniture, and athletic improvements, you don't show an increase. But if prices are doubling and some of the estimates are so much higher, I just wondered about, wouldn't you see some increase in this amount, or does that limit how much you get to do because that money was allocated for that?
Yeah, so there certainly are increases everywhere. So we are looking at scaling back on some of the things, just because we just know that the town cannot afford everything. But, the prevailing wage is really not going to change much. So like an asbestos is really labor. Asbestos project is really labor intensive. That's where your money is being spent. So that's pretty steady at this point, unless the state comes in, takes the prevailing wages, and I hear a familiar sound, and increases those wages. So at this point, we don't see that. Computer infrastructure, the device costs, I think, are been pretty stable. I don't think we've seen a lot of stuff on that. I'm not Jared Morin's obviously the IT director, and he's more familiar with that. But, site work, again, a lot of it's labor. There are materials, of course, and, asphalt for paving is been up and down. It's kind of on its way down right now, oil. Fingers crossed, right? So we think that that'll be stable. But again, yeah, it might limit our ability for the scope of projects, so the number of projects. So.
Renee.
I'm new to the board, so this probably was discussed before, but the air quality improvements, why is that just at the elementary schools? Is there a future plan for high schools and middle schools?
We already have systems at those buildings. So we have the high schools and the middle schools all have full HVAC systems. And also 2 of our elementary schools, heating and cooling. So Charter Oak and Smith. Then we have 7 elementaries that have basically minimal systems. So we do have some areas that are air conditioned and have fresh air handlers, but not the majority of the classrooms do not. So, and then Wolcott and Braeburn both have fresh air systems, but not air conditioning. So throughout the building. So that's why it's focused on the elementaries. So.
And if you think about it, now we talked about this before, but it was 3 years ago. That's really where a lot of the significant cost comes from at the elementary schools. We don't have ductwork in these buildings. It's not like it's just a matter of changing out a furnace and adding an air conditioner unit to it. And so it requires some pretty innovative engineering and some different solutions.
Right. Yeah, and we're also, addressing the windows in this project. So the window systems are very antiquated, single pane, terrible systems. So original stuff. So it's rough. So it's a really, we obviously have to do that. We want to, if we're going to put this investment in there, and we want to make sure that the building envelope is good. So that's what this will do. So.
Jason.
Thank you. So this may seem kind of coming out of left field, but I think it pertains to potentially, addressing maybe air quality issues and also potential. I don't know what kind of savings it could offer, but so the idea, or what I've heard in other spaces, is the use of indoor plants to improve air quality. And if that is anything that the district has ever considered or to think of in terms of trying to meet the air quality standards provided through other ecological, biological means rather than mechanical means, and if that could extend the life of the mechanical system, or I wonder what kind of benefits could be generated in that way. At what scale? You said we have 1.8 million square feet. That's a lot of space. I know.
Go out on the limb and say.
Yeah, but it's a job that our planet does, and I wonder what kind of benefits those other organisms could have in our schools.
Yeah, I think we can take a look at that. It is an interesting question. So, one thing that comes to mind is when you put plants inside, you introduce the allergens that bother a lot of our kids,
right.
And that scrubbing out of the air through air filtration systems. So how does that work? And
right.
the molds perhaps that are in soils. That,
interesting.
So those are some of the concerns I think that come to my mind right away. It is interesting. I think more importantly is maybe we look at the town and what what is our campuses look like, and what does the vegetation on those around us? So are we, we do have quite extensive grounds, and, I'm actually going to a meeting tomorrow with a bunch of educators over at Sedgwick to talk about trees on school campuses and managing those better, and how do we do that, and some of the legacy kind of trees that we do already have. So, so maybe that's what we look at as a town, as a complete town, and it's more goes towards some of the town committees that work on the sustainability types of things. Our tree canopy is very thick here, but it's also very old. So, and that obviously it helps to clean the air and produce oxygen for us. But so maybe it's a bigger conversation than what we're doing here, obviously. But it's so it's interesting. I would look at it, but those are some of my initial concerns. Is when I think about
that is a big concern.
Plants in there and the pollens and those types of things, and the kids
molds.
The molds.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
So,
thank you.
Yep.
Claire, yes.
So I know that we got an amazing support from the state for Charter Oak. And I believe Morley is similar age to what the old Charter Oak was. Some schools, are they past 80 years?
Yes.
So at some point, when do we look forward and say, how much are we investing in a building nearing 100 years? And what's the long-term view because of the efficiency of a new building compared to trying to make an old building be efficient? I don't know if anyone's looking out for opportunities like we had at Charter Oak. But at some point, and I don't know if this is in 20 years or how long from now, but at some point, do our buildings need replacement?
Right. It is an interesting question. So, and it's a very expensive question. So, and as you point out, the Charter Oak was a special situation where we got 80% reimbursement from the state. Our standard reimbursement on new construction is 29%.
Yeah, Charter Oak was also a specific result of the of a racial inequity issue that the state was addressing, and so I don't know of currently any programs that would apply for Morley. Just off the top of my head, I'm not sure how or where we could rebuild if we ever were to put a new school at Morley. We had enough space at Charter Oak that we were able to do the two of them concurrently. I don't know that would exist in a neighborhood at Morley.
Yeah, it is a much smaller footprint there on the piece of property. So, we've had some preliminary conversations with the town on that, and especially as we're increasing putting this level of investment in older buildings with this fresh air system. At what point does that tip the scales to say, maybe it's time to think about a new building? So we're having those conversations with them. It's hard. I think a new building is new elementary school. Well, we spent for Charter Oak, which is 90,000 square feet, was 45 million 6 years ago. So that's
more than that. More than 6 years ago.
8.
Yeah.
8.
8 years ago. So. I
So,
know. It's been so much fun.
So we're probably looking at $60 million right now.
Oh, at least, yeah. And we wouldn't make it round again. No,
we will not.
I do want to, however, go on record just to prevent the 20 phone calls tomorrow. There are no plans to tear down or to close Morley Elementary School in this program or this budget or any other budget that we are considering.
All right, other question? Ethan.
Just to follow up on that point, and I know you're not doing it, but I can tell you from having moved coders around, you're going to have to find a school or place to put the kids currently at the school you're tearing down where you built. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, we didn't at Charter Oak though.
I understand. But if
we had the field next to it. The difficulty in any other location would be that having that flex space.
Right.
And again, you have to then look at that long term long-term value for the town. Remember that these are not buildings that we own. These are town properties. The town, by statute, the board does not have authority to have capital. And so these are town projects, and these are town schools and town buildings that are used almost year-round, some, it seems, 24/7 by groups and by town and by the town.
I was just saying logistically, there's.
Oh, yeah. No, logistically, it's a problem for someone.
It's not just tearing a school down, because you're not going to do it in the summer.
Yeah. No, and it was a long process at Charter Oak. It was a long construction project. It was, I do distinctly remember the moment when Bob and I were sitting in Juan Melian's office in the old building, looking out going, boy, that's a lot closer than it looked on the blueprint, isn't it? Because remember the 1 footer?
22 feet.
Yeah, 22 feet. We're like, that seemed be a lot further away from the building as we were drawing it out. But no, it was, there was some interesting moments there initially in the construction. We had a lot of fencing.
Yes. Good times.
Other questions? All right, back to you, please.
Okay, so going back to planned projects for the next 3 fiscal years very quickly. So these are kind of the projects where we have placeholders for and that we are aiming for. Aiken, we would, in 24-25, we'll do restroom renovations. Brayburn this upcoming year, we'll do the roof replacement. We're currently looking at the parking lot there. I'm on page 59. Yep. Got it? Oh, no, I was in the booklet. Oh, okay. So probably in the first 5 pages on that one. There you go, right, yep, there you go, okay. Brayburn parking lot, we're looking at that for the summer next summer, fiscal year 24-25. Bugby Auditorium Lighting and Sound in 24-25, restroom renovations that same year, roof replacement the year after, along with fresh air and windows. And knowing that will not have enough funds at that point, we'll probably have to wait a year. But I'm tentatively putting it there for 25-26. So. Conard visitor bleacher replacements this summer, exterior door replacements 25-26, air handler replacements in 25 and 26. Those are existing units within the building that we're going to replace. Their original equipment from the 50s. So it's time to, so it's at the end of its life. Duffy Main Entrance, we're going to be doing that this summer. This is the same program we've done at many of the other buildings with the person trap. Fresh air and windows, we hope to begin that this summer too. Auditorium lighting sound next summer, flooring the year after, and then along with painting, and then some paving in that third year as well. Hall exterior door replacements this upcoming summer, masonry repairs this summer, roof replacements in year 2, air handler replacements in year 2 as well. King Philip, we'll be doing flooring replacements there forever. It's a very large building, so the next 3 summers, along with painting of those areas, we will be doing the back lot at King Philip this summer. That's already been designed. We're very close to putting that out to bid at this point, so it's well overdue. Norfolk, this summer we plan on replacing the gym flooring. That's actually an asbestos tile gym floor, so very slippery, so it really does need to be replaced. Fresh air windows in 24 and 25 for Norfolk. That doesn't seem right. I think that's an error.
I think that was the original.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. I'll cross that out and correct that. Cedric masonry repairs this upcoming summer, air handler replacements along this summer, restroom renovations, that's that phase 2 that we had talked about. We'll also, next summer in year 2, come back for exterior door replacements. We'll also in year 3 replace the electrical switch gear there. So that's pretty old over there. I don't think it's original. The original part of that building is 1928, so I don't think it's original, but it's pretty old, and it's been giving us some issues over there. Webster Hill Fresh Air, we will help to do that in year 2. Whiting Lane, auditorium lighting and sound in year 2, flooring this upcoming summer, along with painting. The boiler, we would combine that with the fresh air project, so I'll make a correction there. That's an error. So Wolcott Auditorium seating, that will begin that project this summer. Auditorium and lighting sound the following summer, year 2. Cafeteria flooring, year 2. Cafeteria painting, year 2. Also in year 2, we would hope to be doing the office project that we talked about, the moving the front office for security, and then making those other improvements that we talked about. So that's really our 3-year plan that we're focusing on moving forward.
Bob, do you want to quickly just explain switchgear for folks, because it's something that we talk about a
so
lot.
electrical switchgear is where the service comes in, electrical service comes into the building, and then it gets distributed through the building. And really, the switchgear is kind of like a gigantic fuse box that you have at your house, except it's just monstrous. So it takes up a whole room in a large commercial building. So it does wear out over time, just like your electrical box at home. So, and it does need to be replaced. So it does give us some efficiency when we replace that, because they are more efficient, the newer models versus the older models, so we do end up with some energy efficiency. We also end up, as you're aware, in West Hartford, our electrical service is not always the best from our friends at Eversource. So the power coming into the building, we do put a surge protector onto the building, which helps protect the building. So during power outages, so if the power goes out, it shuts off the whole building, then as opposed to letting it phase where we get partial power in, which ends up damaging equipment and lighting and that type of thing. So whenever we do a switchgear replacement like that, we upgrade our switchgear to handle those types of situations. So.
Any other questions or comments? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Could I make a note?
Yes, please.
Could you send me those corrections that you noted?
Yes,
awesome.
We'll update everything.
Yeah, we'll send it out and update
great.
all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And now moving on to staff communications and reports, we will now receive our superintendent's report.
All right, so again, I wanted to give a thanks to the Charter Oak Tour Group earlier this evening, and Liz Keller, who is their orchestra teacher, and all the great work that they're doing. Smith STEM School held its first ever community paint night earlier in December, and over 40 families from students in grades 2 to 5 participated in a guided painting led by Smith's arts teacher, Miss Arden Warinsky, who actually dressed up as Bob Ross for this. It's a pretty cute picture. All materials were made possible through a family engagement grant for Title I schools, and over 15 Smith faculty members volunteered to help set up, assisted families during the event, and help clean up at the end. And so Smith is hoping that this becomes a yearly tradition there, and they had great fun with it. All of our winter concerts are underway. Hopefully people get a chance to go ahead and see those. It's nice to be able to have those again in person. Our next video in the Vision of the Graduate Program is now on the website, and it includes Morley and Bristow students explaining the goals of curiosity and the love of learning. And so check that out if you could. Webster Hill and Bugby hosted parent workshops to highlight the SEL curriculum with a focus on our identity strand. The events offered opportunity for an overview of the larger SEL curriculum, a review of the mentor texts, and opportunity for small group and individual dialogues. Wolcott, Braeburn, and Charter Oak will host their evenings for parents in early January. Congratulations from us all to Duffy teacher Gayle Campbell, who achieved National Board Certification earlier this month. And KP and Bugby won $7,500 technology packages in the 2022 Chet Dream Big competition, which is a program as an essay contest hosted by the Connecticut Office of the Treasurer to support future education goals of K-12 students. And that's the update for December.
All right, thank you so much. Teammates, any questions or comments regarding our superintendent's update? Jason.
I was at the Sedgwick choir, band, and orchestra performance, and it was quite lovely. That was amazing, and it's, as you said, it's so great to see everyone together. And played Earth, Wind, and Fire, as well as some Tchaikovsky, so it was really well-rounded.
It's important they're mixing it up that way. I'm sure that's Juan's influence. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I ditto went to the concert there as well. Excellent, yes. Thank you so much. All right, so we shall move on. And now we will have our staff report and board discussions where we will receive our personnel report presented to us by Mr. Julio Duarte. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. So the personnel report can be found on page 61 of your packet. As you know, district policy requires that we update the board on any changes that we have to both, for our certified staff, for both teachers and administrators. So the numbers that you see here are reflective of every change since October, which was the last time that I had presented to the board. So I'll give you a quick rundown. As you can see, we had 10 resignations and 3 retirements. We also hired 7 contracted teachers, 5 interim teachers, and 1 administrator. And so again, the difference between a contracted teacher as an interim teacher is a contracted teacher is someone that we're hiring and we intend to be here with us for the long haul and support them through that. An interim teacher is someone who's here filling in while someone else may be out on some type of leave. So again, thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Questions? Comments? Jason?
Thank you, Julio. And this is a shorter list than I've seen in the past, but I'm wondering, how does this alter our figures for diversity in our teaching staff?
Yeah, so that has continued to be a focus area for ours. Certainly when we're looking at, particularly for some of our interim positions, it's a little bit harder, and that has been a bit of a struggle for us, just finding someone that wants to come in and fill in for 2 months, things like that. But, I will say I've been really impressed with just that being at the front of all the conversations, and when we're looking and really being mindful of that. We've also had some really good success with our teacher residency program, which I know I filled the board in on before, and we've continued to sort of track that. I just happened to be in all of their classrooms this past week, or actually I think it was last week now, and getting to see that. So really excited to really sort of promote some of the things that we can be doing proactively, I think, to address those concerns. And, at some point, I think we'll really start to see more of that benefit as well.
Yeah, really, thank you for all that you do.
Other questions or comments? Ethan?
I was just curious, you had 3 retirements. Did you know those were coming, or were they sort of sudden?
So I would say that probably we knew that one of them, 2 of them we knew were coming. One of them we were a little bit, I wouldn't say surprised by. We knew that the person was sort of had some conversations and things like that, but not 100% aware. One of the things, again, I think that we pride ourselves is having good relationships with our staff. We talk a lot about relationships with students, but also having those relationships with staff so that they're telling us, hey, here's what's going on. Oftentimes, particularly when it's a mid-year retirement, they're going to let us know even going into it. And a lot of that has to do with just teacher retirement. And when they signed on, maybe 30 years ago when they came in and wanted to make sure that they maximize that. So, I would say that it's rare that we're caught completely off guard. And we also really try, particularly in this day and age, to have a plan B and a plan C so that when those things happen, even if we didn't know, we've got good people to look at. And that's been a real advantage of some of our teaching assistants and some of those things. Again, we're being proactive in that hiring process, is that we're looking and hiring teaching assistants that are certified and are eager and wanting a position so that we can sort of see them in action. And then when something, sort of pops open, we're able to tap them on the shoulder and really promote from within. Which again, I think has helped increase the culture in the building and hopefully the culture of folks wanting to join our family here.
No, because I've just seen recently where they incentivize people to give them advance notice, but if you already have that, then there's no need to do that.
Yeah, I know we've had those conversations, and again, I think for us, it's not something that we're really looking at or worried about, because again, I think the most important piece is people are making decisions that's best for them and their families, and we want that to be the case, and we want to have those conversations and just be supportive and not rushing anyone into those types of decisions. And Liz's office, and we've got folks like Mara and my office and Liz's office do a really nice job of sitting down with folks and walking them through. Just here's the process, here's the numbers, what they look like, and then not wanting to pressure anyone into that, letting them say, you make the decision that's best for you and your family, but really appreciate the heads up so that we can be proactive with that.
Because I would think it'd be disruptive if you're not aware of it.
It is, yep.
All right, thank you.
And I think too, just to piggyback on that, all of our staff are so mindful of putting kids first. And so actually there's times where we're meeting with people, or I'm meeting with someone, and they're actually losing money by working. They could make more money by retiring and essentially getting their pension and going down that path. But they're so passionate about being with our students and not wanting to ever leave them hanging and feeling like I want to sort of make sure I finish the year, even if that means it's maybe costing me money, but it's what's right for kids. And that's something that we always are mindful of. And I think that's, again, the culture that we've built here.
Claire. Julia, do you have an estimate of how many open teaching positions, paraeducator positions, or I see the equity advancement specialist has left, so are there many openings right now in the district?
So I'd say we have a handful of the teaching position ones that we're looking at. We actually had some interviews today, and then just trying to figure out as well with some of the positions what we're going to do moving forward, and how we want to fill those. I think our para positions and have definitely been where our shortcoming is. And again, we're being extremely proactive. I know Melissa and her team is calling every number when they see one, and even trying to work with some different agencies to do that. And the agencies are struggling. They just don't have bodies to send us. We've, Dr. Morrow and I have had some conversations about some different ideas, and when we reach out to them, they're just like, we'd love to do that, but we can't support you in that. So the advantage that we've had is the state has allowed us to hire some of our students that have been back for college. And so again, I think it's a testament to the relationship that we have with kids. They are calling us while they're still in school. My office is working quickly to get them in, get the paperwork processed, so the day they show up, they can go to work tomorrow at their schools. I know we have 2 kids ready to go, and all of them want to go back to their alma maters, whether it's their elementary schools or their middle school, high school, whatever that is. And so we're excited to see that over the next, I think, 2 months or so, and that'll help alleviate some of that stress on the building level, and hopefully help us get through, what could be a challenging winter season to have some of those extra folks here.
Yeah. And Julio and his team have been fantastic on looking at where are there different options and where are there opportunities. He's been reaching out, and we're working with CCSU on a program with their education department for their students when not in class to be able to come over and work in our schools as well.
Other question? Gayle.
Yeah, thanks for the report. On the resignations list here, every single one of these people, with the exception of one, resigned for personal reasons. So I was just curious if you had any sense of what, why are these people taking other jobs? Are they retiring from teaching? I mean, do you have any sense of why people are resigning?
Yeah, so I oftentimes will meet and certainly offer the opportunity for anyone to meet with me, and it really has been just varied. We had, the last one I talked to was with someone that had 2 younger children and was coming back to the classroom really excited, but it's just been a really challenging time to balance that. And unfortunately, they've been hit with, I think, as many of us who have little kids, the flu followed by another flu followed by, and just to them, they were like, I just can't keep missing work, and I feel bad, so I have to just make this choice for my family. We had another one that was their spouse was being relocated, so they had to go. So I guess to answer your question, there hasn't been a theme, and certainly any theme that would make me concerned at this point.
Mm-hmm. Do you see that people are resigning because they're going to a different district, or is it more the types of things you just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the year, we're not seeing folks leaving for other districts. It's actually been the opposite. You know, for our openings, we've had folks that have wanted to come here, particularly folks that have seen our equity statement, and I think that's really speaking to a lot of people, and they're excited to come here and join that work, and so that's been a real draw for us. And always, too, is the professional development that we offer. You know, those CSI, we call them CSIs, or Early Release Wednesdays, is from a professional lens, is something that teachers across the state still really look at us and think, wow, and they want to be here to get that because they know the professional development they're getting, and they're just not able to get that in some other districts.
Okay, I had one other question. How many teachers are actually in your teacher residency program?
3.
3.
Correct.
Is that something you'd be expanding, or is it going to stay at 3?
So we actually were going to have 2, and then we begged for 3, and the program allowed us to get 3. So we've been, it sounds like it's been green lighted for next year. And also what we're excited about is it looks like they're going to expand it to special education. And so we are already in the process of looking at that piece. And, you know, the truth is trying to make sure that we have good candidates on both sides. And also for our teachers, the mentors, you know, it's actually a huge time commitment and something that we really need people to be mindful of, that you're really basically taking someone onto your classroom. And the 3 that have done it this year have been great and have been more than willing to do all that. So our hope, I would say, is that, yeah, I'd love to get another 2 or 3 for our regular ed, another 2 or 3 for our special education as well. So, and like I said, I know the 3 that are in the program this year personally, and I'm just awed. I'm awed by watching them in the classroom. I was there watching them. One of them was reading a book, and I mean, just seemed like a skilled teacher who's been doing it. And I look at it because of the work, bless you, the work that the mentor teacher is doing too. So just really an exciting program for us.
Yes, Claire.
And just to add, the limit is somewhat based on you have to guarantee a position after they finish, well, if they pass the residency, they are hired, correct?
So that's certainly our goal going into it. You know, and to be honest, I'm not sure if if they have to be here, but I would anticipate that's where they want to be. And that's the early conversations that we have. That's 100% our planning. We actually had that conversation at our last leadership meeting, just to remind the principals that we do have 3 outstanding candidates that are part of our family, have been here for a while, and now are going through the program. And so, you know, that's exactly what our hope is to do. My guess is we'll have fights between our principals on where they're going to land is what I'm projecting.
Can I just follow up with that? So you said that the program, you know, accepted 2, but you had to fight for 3. Who's the program? Like what's the limitation there?
So we're working with the state. It's a state program, and ultimately, when we first applied, we had said that we had 2 people. We went through the whole process, and then a little bit late in the game, we had another person that came forward, and you know, they were told that they should look at it, and we looked at what they have done here, their body of work, and they were an absolute rock star. So we reached out, they went through their whole interview process with the teacher residency, and they were selected, and they were going to have them go to another district. And so we really kind of pushed back and said, hey, that's, you know, one of our employees, and they're phenomenal. We really want them here, and we can find another teacher that's willing to do that. And so the program said, sure, go for it. Yep.
Other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now moving on to routine matters, approval of minutes. Seeking a motion to have approval of the minutes from the December 6th, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Ari. Discussion?
In terms of the attendees, I noticed Ms. Pollan was noted as present, so I thought that was something we should edit.
Yes, duly noted. Thank you. Any other discussion? Thank you. All of those in favor with the edit to those that were in attendance? All of those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Information and reports. Board members, do we have any updates from communications and reports from other boards or organizations? Yes, Claire.
Yes, so I have a report from the West Hartford Prevention Council. Over the last year, I've had the pleasure of attending their meetings, and Dr. Harris is going to be taking over on that council. They share a lot of the great things that are happening in the district and some of the accomplishments that they've had over the last year were shared. The Amplify grant has been implemented to reduce vaping in the town. There's been a wellness assessment that was redistributed, and they received valuable feedback. They're currently looking for a full-time prevention coordinator, and they're also shared, their standing reports shared by social services, the police resource officers are providing education in the schools and individually in classrooms. One story in particular that was very moving was through the Narcan training that's been happening in town. One resident participated in the Narcan training, and they were given samples that after they go through the training, and this individual, their child was found in an overdose situation. They were able to use the Narcan and save their life, and so these courses are being offered. Some are in Spanish, some are English, so they're very effective. Any resident can take advantage of these. And then they're also looking for potential new board members. So it's a great way to be involved in the whole prevention council and helping the town in that way.
Thank you, Claire, and I'm thankful to hear the ending of what you just shared was optimistic. Thank you. Any other updates? Okay, thank you. Moving on to future business. Announcement of future meeting dates. Our next meeting will be next year, Tuesday, January the 17th, 2023, where we'll have our regular Board of Education meeting at 7 o'clock here at the Town Hall, room 314. Followed by the following month, Tuesday, February the 7th, 2023, our regular Board of Education meeting, where we will have adoption of the CIP at 7 o'clock here at the Town Hall in room 314. Do we have a request for any future agenda items? Seeing none, do we have any visitors here who would like to make a comment tonight? Seeing none, we do not have an executive session. And so before we seek a motion to adjourn, just want to wish all of you who are already celebrating the holiday season and those that will begin to celebrate the holiday season, happy holidays to you, happy new year to you. And we certainly look forward to embarking on new journeys ahead in a prosperous way, helping us all grow and learn together. And so with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Ari. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jason. Meeting adjourned at 9:10.